Welcome back to another episode of Small Ball with Kenny Beecham. We are still counting down the days into the start of the NBA regular season, but I'm recording this Thursday, October 2nd, and preseason is here. Preseason is here. Now I can't act like I care too much about the preseason, but it is going to be so fun to get home and then watch the second half of whatever teams are playing overseas right now. I'm hyped. I'm excited. And in today's episode, I took a page out of Professor Zach Lowe's book. See, Zach Lowe, when he was a part of ESPN, used to write this article every single year, one of the most anticipated articles, at least for me, where he gave his most intriguing players going into the next season. I don't know if he's still going to write that column now that he's with the Ringer, but I'm like, hey, if somebody needs to do it, I'll be here. I'll do it, but in audio, a podcasting form. So I got the five most intriguing players going into next season from my personal opinion. And I got some ones that didn't make the cut that I kind of want to hit on a little bit. And depending on time, we'll talk about some of the contract extension stuff, Jonathan Kuminga, and what the Warriors just did over the last week or so, and why I still don't see it, and why, even though he got his contract, I'm still confused on what the hell the plan is for them and for him. Get into all of that. Before we get into it, I will let you know that the season is almost here, which means that we are back going weekly. We may change the schedule just a little bit, right? You're probably used to seeing Small Ball in your podcast feed and your YouTube feed on Fridays. It might have to shift 2 weeks from now. I will not say anything more. I'll keep you updated. But if you see it hit the box on a Monday or something, just know it's because things are happening within the company. Excited for today's episode, though. Excited for today's episode. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Tell a friend that if they are looking for basketball content, I am here. Teed Up is here under the network. And, of course, Numbers on the Board is here. Are we ready for the five most intriguing players, for my personal opinion, going into next season? The first one is Anthony Black. See, some of y'all thought I was probably coming here talking about, LeBron James and his year 40, 41 season, or some of these super amazing elite players. No. This is usually a tier below. And Anthony Black is the number one guy on my list. When he was drafted behind Victor Wembanyama, Brandon Miller, Scoot Henderson, the Thompson twins, and he was sitting there at number 6. Now, traditionally, if you're going to be a top 6 pick, you're drafted to a really bad team, allowing you to have an opportunity to go out on that bad team and get a bunch of reps. But he was drafted to the Orlando Magic, who in his rookie season were the surprise team of the NBA, meaning that the ball was not put in his hands as much as traditionally you would see from somebody that was drafted as high as him. And he had to basically come into the NBA on a good team and find a role. And I always want to give people a lot of grace when that happens, because it is extremely hard to go from the guy in high school, the guy in college, to come into the NBA and being drafted fairly high and being told, nah, you're not the guy. Actually, you're not even going to be close to the guy, because we have this dude and this dude, and we got this dude, and well, you got to come off the bench. See, a lot of these guys get to play through their mistakes. They get to play through the ups and downs of being an NBA player, but Anthony Black did not have that luxury. So I'm giving him a little bit of grace, but I do want to talk about how he has not fulfilled the role or the things that the Orlando Magic has needed in going into this next season, after they spent all of the draft cachet and all of the stuff that they did to go get Desmond Bane and the Eastern Conference being wide open. Why they kind of need Anthony Black to arrive. His rookie season, when they were a team that was in the postseason, he was 10th in minutes per game. And a lot of that is because they didn't really have great guard play. I mean, that kind of has been the thing for the Orlando Magic for the last couple of seasons. Hell, it was one of the reasons why he got drafted. Markelle Fultz was a cool swing when he was traded from the Philadelphia 76ers, but never really materialized to be a long-term guy. Cole Anthony had a really good first year and second year in the league, but obviously didn't materialize to be a starter-level guy. And now he's out the door as well. Anthony Black is one of those guys that the Orlando Magic traditionally draft. He's a tall guy, great wingspan, great defensive instincts, and Orlando Magic, that's what their whole identity is. Year 2 was better than year 1, obviously. A lot of his numbers went up. I think he doubled his points per game. He almost doubled his minutes per game. And a lot of that is, Jalen Suggs went down, and they were looking for more people to kind of fill these roles. And this was going to the second offseason where they let go of a lead ball handler, right? Markelle Fultz 2 years ago, and this year they let go of Cole Anthony, but they did also sign Tyus Jones. We're going to talk about Tyus Jones signing a little bit later, because I think that could be a sign of a couple different things. But Anthony Black going into his last year was not very good. Again, better than his rookie season, so we give him credit there, but it's not cutting it. Because Anthony Black is one of those guys that you draft him as a guard, and he is used as a guard, right? He is one of the 58 people in the NBA that ran 250 plus pick and rolls as the ball handler. And I'm going to read you some stats about his 250 pick and rolls that he ran as a ball handler. He was dead last of the 58 when it comes to synergy shot making. I'm not very good with numbers, but that doesn't seem to be amazing. Second, he was dead last in points per shot directly out of that pick and roll. Also, not that great, because when you look at it, the people that ran at 250 pick and rolls, some of those guys are also not very good. So to be dead last is really trash. He was 56 of the 58 when it comes to turnover percentage, only in front of Denny Abdia and Russell Westbrook. And the last that I got, he was second to last in points per possession, only in front of, Russell Westbrook. Damn, Brody. Can I believe we just went through a whole media day and didn't see you? So the Anthony Black as a lead ball handler has not worked out. In his defense, also, again, with all of these injuries, some of the lineups that he was playing alongside was really tough, but it has not been good. And this is a season where I wouldn't be surprised if things kind of shift for him as a player, right? Year 3 is always a pretty decent year when it comes to these younger guys. But I would assume let's take a step back. Tyus Jones signs with the Orlando Magic, right? Cool. There's a couple different ways you can kind of interpret this, right? Number one, you can interpret that, hey, this is a team that has dealt with so many injuries, specifically to that guard position. It will not hurt to just go get another guy that can facilitate for the team. That is one way to say, hey, Tyus Jones may not play a ton, but he is in the back pocket just in case Suggs goes out or Black goes out or so on and so forth. But the other way you could look at it is that they're maybe shifting away from Anthony Black as a backup point guard. Not saying that Anthony Black is about to follow the rotation. Not saying that Anthony Black won't be an impactful player. But I think one of the most interesting arcs that Anthony Black can go on this season is like an Nickeil Alexander arc. His first year of his NBA career, he shot it fairly well from 3, and that was surprising, right? He didn't shoot it great in college, and his jump shot is very slow. It's kind of segmented. It's not the most beautiful thing, but if you knock it down, you knock it down. In year 2, a lot of those numbers went down. And if you look at the first couple of years of Nickeil Alexander Walker's career versus the first couple of years of Anthony Black's, now obviously they were drafted in different spots and everything, the way they were utilized in those first couple of years is eerily similar. The amount of pick and rolls they were running as a backup point guard or backup lead guard is almost identical. And something clicked for Nickeil Alexander Walker, and that thing that clicked probably is just a change of scenery, where he went away from trying to be a lead ball handler, where he changed his game to be a 3-and-D wing. We already know Anthony Black is a great defender already as a year 2 player. Like, that is not even up for debate. He is a really good defender with great instincts, great anticipation in passing lanes, long arms, and he had the responsibility of guarding best players in some of those lineups that you saw him run last season. So he's got that. He's already got the D part of the 3-and-D. Nickeil Alexander Walker evolved away from the basketball and became a spot-up shooter, also with a funky jump shot. I think that is like the best case scenario for specifically this Orlando Magic team. Now, it is probably going to be really difficult for Anthony Black to do that in one singular season, but him becoming a 3-and-D guy off the ball would just help the Orlando Magic. Because one thing, if you go back and watch the film, there's a few things that stood out to me. Is that when he wasn't the lead ball handler and he was playing with lineups pre-injury Suggs, or he was playing the lineups where Franz Wagner was the initiator or Paolo Banchero was the initiator, he looked and felt kind of lost off the ball. One thing that Orlando Magic fans will tell you is like his wavering trust in himself or confidence with the basketball or without the basketball is one of the reasons why, you got a pool of Magic fans that are trying to be really patient with him. And another pool of Magic fans is like, hey, if things don't go right this season, then we have to really talk about making a trade or so. A lot of that kind of goes away if you turn him into this, again, a Nickeil Alexander Walker type of guy, which is just a way of saying a 3-and-D wing. Because the defense is there. It's just about the jump shooting. It's just about the jump shoots. Also, when I went back to watch a lot of this film, I forgot how much zone the Orlando Magic saw last season. Like, every single team they went against just ran a zone at them. And it makes sense. They got no shooters. They want to get to the basket. Let's just stop them like that. But I'm watching all these Anthony Black film as him as a ball handler and him off the ball. And I'm like, golly. a lot of his open jump shots are strictly coming because the defense is running the zone against his unit. It's like, what are you supposed to do if you Anthony Black? I don't really know. But I hate that this is the way it goes for when we evaluate talent in basketball. But I'm going to say the thing that everybody is going to say about an Anthony Black type of guy. He will not be able to play in a playoff series unless he develops an adequate jump shot. I hate that every time we're talking about players, it boils down to the jump shooter. It boils down to the three-point shooting. But did you watch that Boston Celtics series? Because again, I rewatched it over the last couple of days as I was preparing for this video or for this episode. It was awful how they guarded Anthony Black. I mean, going under every single pick and roll, like not even trying to switch it up to scare him. Shoot the ball. We want you to. He shot 16% from three in the postseason. Wide open looks. And as a team that is, again, in this Eastern Conference where we look at the top two teams, we say it's Cleveland and it's New York. And then after that, it might be y'all, Orlando. If you want to take the jump that you need players that can shoot the ball, right? And if Anthony Black is on a unit that has other non-shooters, he just won't be guarded. And again, I hate that that's what it boils down to. And there's only a few players in the league right now that can make it from the guard position without having a decent jump shot. And those guys are, in a lot of times in half-court sets, aren't even used as guards. You know, when we're talking about like a Amin Thompson who's sitting on the goddamn block or sneaking down the baseline for, a dunker spot touch, or him playing offensive rebounding guru. Like there's some guys that could just make it work without the jumper. And there's other guys that, whether it be the system or whether it be their own abilities outside of the non-jump shot, that just cannot work without it. And Anthony Black is kind of turned into that dude because he's, as I mentioned, with the pick and roll numbers, he's not good with the ball enough to make you feel like you need to put the ball in his hands. And he also not good without the ball. So it is a conundrum. And that draft class for the Orlando Magic has not really reaped the reward that you really wanted it to. You want to have the 6th overall pick, or you want to have, what other pick was it? What was the Jet Howard pick? That was the former Bulls pick. Let me double check this real quick. I want to say Jet Howard was like 12th or 13th. He was 11th. When you have Jet Howard at 11 and you have Anthony Black at 6, and you might go into a postseason series this year where neither of those guys are playable, it's some scary things. I did a video on my Kenny 2 channel where on Crafted NBA, they were ranking all general managers strictly based on how well they draft. And one of the worst people was the current general manager regime for the Orlando Magic. One of the worst in the last 20 years. Now, if you go back and watch that video, I gave them grace because the Franz Wagner pick is really great. Like it's really, really good. But the Paolo pick, obviously first overall pick, and he's projected to be that. I know we had the swinging of the odds the night of the draft, but I also don't know what to really think about that. So they got Paolo, and again, they got Franz. So I got to give them credit there. But some of the other ones, even Jalen Suggs at 5 is materialized. If you look at that one season where he shot very well from 3, but the things around that just hasn't really worked out. And you kind of needed to. I talked about this in a video that has not been released yet, that one of the ways that these really good current GMs are running it is making it so that, especially in the second apron era, rookie scale contracts have to be valuable. Rookie scale players have to be good enough to play in the postseason. Think about who the OKC Thunder just ran out last season. A lot of those guys ended up being on rookie scale deals or deals very small, like Isaiah Joe or, Aaron Wiggins and so on and so forth. Cason Wallace being a rookie scale contract allows them to be able to keep the big 3 guys that they have that are all going to be on max contracts. And with them having so many draft picks for the next couple of years, they're going to keep rotating these rookie scale guys that can play. AJ Mitchell played in the NBA fucking finals, right? Like that's something that we just wouldn't have seen 10 years ago. So for the Orlando Magic, who have Paolo Banchero on the max, Franz Wagner on the max, and Desmond Bane on whatever his max extension ended up being a couple years ago, they also need some of these rookie scale contract people to be not just looked at as rookies, but looked at as quality players. We saw it for the Indiana Pacers as well, right? A lot of those guys are rookie scale guys or guys that made, a minimum amount of money on their second contract compared. It's really important. So Anthony Black is one of my most intriguing guys because they kind of need him to be good. because they don't really have a lot of options on that second unit, right? And it's got to be Anthony Black, in my opinion. Going to the next guy. This guy was also ranked very high. I actually mentioned him when I was talking about the draft class of Anthony Black. It was the number 2 overall pick in that year's draft. Brandon Miller, man. I have to admit, Brandon Miller was a guy that I was high on coming out of college. Obviously, I don't watch a ton of college basketball. I've mentioned that before, but I do ramp myself up when it comes to the NBA draft. And now that I got Synergy and now that I got a lot of these different platforms, I'm having so much fun just watching film, gearing myself up for this NBA season. And Brandon Miller himself had a really interesting second season. He obviously dealt with the wrist injury that I guess is still nagging him at least a little bit. He's going to play with some tape at least to start the NBA season according to his media day stuff. But in that, he only played 27 games. Cool. All right, let's look at this 27 game sample size. His efficiency dropped a little bit. The overall, every other stat got higher. His points per game, his assists per game, his rebounds per game. I'm talking about all of the counting stats. Just was a better season if you look past the dip in efficiency. One thing I thought was pretty interesting was the change in his shot diet. His rookie season, he was a guy that got to his spots in the mid-range area and took 14% of his shots as a long 2-point shooter, which at that moment in time, 14% may not seem like a lot, but again, in 2024, 2025, that is a lot of mid-range jumpers. Then things shifted in the sophomore season. A lot of those long twos turned into three-pointers. That 14% at long two ended up being just 7% in year number 2. He cut him in half. And all of those shots, every single one of them just turned into a three-pointer. And I'm trying to figure out, is that a him thing or is that Charles Lee? Again, Charles Lee coming away from the Boston Celtics, a team that legitimately only shot three-pointers and got to the basket. There was no mid-range jumpers. So I don't know if that's the Charles Lee philosophy, or was that Brandon Miller just shifting his shot diet based on what 2024, 2025 really looks like as an NBA guy. And there's pros and cons to this, right? There's definitely pros and cons to getting to the point where you're shooting 10.3 three-pointers a game and kind of cutting out the middle ground, which the middle ground is one of the things that people love the most about his game coming out of college. The pro is 3 is better than 2. And Brandon Miller should be a good three-point shooter, all things considered. I know, again, he shot 35% on 10 attempts last season. A lot of those are tough pull-ups and so on. When he was a catch-and-shoot guy, it was 42%, so he's really good there. But he turned a lot of those mid-range to three-pointers, and I could see the pro there is like 3 is greater than 2 in the analytical world. But the con is that it felt like we got away of some of the essence that is Brandon Miller. Even when he was asked about it at media day, when he was asked about his shot diet in his second season, he kind of paused and thought to himself about it for a little bit. And people are like reading into it saying like, hey, is that him trying to pull a Shador Sanders and not answer the question at all? Which is fucking wild, first of all, that everybody has an opinion about the kid just not answering a question. But whatever. I'm not a big NFL guy, but I saw that video and the fucking write-ups that everybody had about the third string quarterback. Think about that, about the third string quarterback. I can't name a single other third string quarterback in the league. I can't name a third string quarterback on my favorite fucking team. Why is the microphone like, anyway? But he didn't answer the question for a second. He took a step back and then he answered it. So the con is kind of taking him away from the things that I thought that was pretty interesting. When they did run some high pick and rolls in his rookie season and he did get to that mid-range spot, it felt like it was butter. And now those the high pick and roll for Brandon Miller is stopping at the three-point line and taking a 3. And again, it goes in sometimes, it misses sometimes, but the middle ground, I feel like we have to, it don't have to be 14%, but it also don't have to be 7%. Can we meet in the middle? Can we get like a 10% of his shot diet? It also sucks that he doesn't get to the basket. Wiry frame. And I was hoping that he came into training camp with a bulked up. He was drafted. He was listed at 200 pounds. Going into this year, he is 205 pounds. And Brandon, look at me. I understand how tough it can be to put on that weight. But damn it, I was hoping he was 210, 215 going into the season. It felt like everybody else put on hella weight, whether they wanted to or not. Anthony Davis is the heaviest he's ever been. So it's like I was hoping that he put on like 10, 15 pounds, but he didn't. Back to the shot diet stuff. Brandon Miller, I want him to be able to, again, take more of those 2-pointers because in my mind, when I think about the analytics that is 3 greater than 2, where the league has kind of been going a little bit, again, yes, that's true. That is 100%. I could be behind that. But it will not hurt if a guy that excels at a mid-range jump shot takes mid-range jump shot if he is the only guy on the team that's doing it. You don't see LaMelo Ball doing that. You don't see Miles Bridges doing that. You don't see these other Grant Williams doing that. If it's only Brandon Miller taking these twos, then I feel like we should be okay with it, especially if he's going to hit him at the clip that we think he can hit him at. But nope, took him out. He also, again, is not getting to the basket the way you want him to. And if you watch numbers on the board about a month or so ago, at the start of, or 2 months ago, at the start of the offseason, I mentioned to them how I watched every single pick and roll opportunity for Brandon Miller. These are ones that he was the ball handler, whether it be leading to a pass or leading to a basket attempt or whatever. I watched every single one of them. And one of the things I mentioned is I think it's going to be super important for him to continue to improve as a playmaker. His assist numbers did go up, but again, watching all those assists, it was better than his rookie season, but it's still far away from where I would like it to be for a guy like Brandon Miller. And on the panel, the guys are like, yeah, that's cool, but like we don't really look at Brandon Miller as that type of guy anyway, so it's not that important. And my kickback to that is it is always going to be important to be a plus playmaker. You don't have to be Luka. You don't have to be LaMelo. You have LaMelo. You don't have to be LaMelo. You don't have to be Trae Young. But you go down the all-star rosters over the last couple of years. How many guards or wings can you name that are not plus playmakers? How many can you name? Maybe 1, 2? So Brandon Miller's going to hit the ceiling that we need him to. He has to be a threat out of those pick and rolls, even if he's not a guy that's running 10 pick and rolls a game. Even if he's a guy that's one more swinging into Miles Bridges in the corner, he needs to get to the point where he's developed as a player to be better as a playmaker. Jaylen Brown's a great example of this. The first couple years of Jaylen Brown's career, we saw him as a guy that is pretty good. But man, his passing ain't really all there. And again, he is very far away from being a Trae Young. He's very far away from being Tyrese Halliburton. But he's a good playmaker now. At the bare minimum, he's an average to above average playmaker, and that is all you really kind of need to be a threat. Because if you're guarding a Brandon Miller pick and roll right now, you kind of don't really care about anybody other than Brandon Miller. Because he has not been amazing in getting into the big fella, and in his defense, it's not like he's played with a ton of great big fellas. It ain't like him and Mark Williams played a ton of minutes together before both of them got injured. But you don't really care about the road, man. You don't care about the guy in the corner. We're going to tag that road man from the corner because Brandon Miller's not making that pass a lot of the times. So just adding that makes him more dynamic as a ball player. I think I want to see that. I think that Brandon Miller's ceiling is extremely high. I truly do believe that he could be an all-star in his league. And if there was a season to make people kind of shift their ideas about the Charlotte Hornets, it's going to be this season, right? Really good offseason, if you ask me. They're going into camp. Everybody's healthy. And when I decide an episode, I kind of really deep dive into randomness that is the Charlotte Hornets. I did see their first unit practice. Like, I'm here. I'm watching these practice films. And Ryan Kalkbrenner was playing with the first unit. Okay. Is he gonna be a starter in his first game of his NBA career? That will be something. But he was playing with that first unit on both of the scrimmages I saw. Pretty interesting stuff. Sorry, Moussa Diabate. It ain't like he got a ton of competition, let's be real. But I thought that was Diabate's spot to lose, and maybe he just lost it day 2 of training camp. So Anthony Black, Brandon Miller is number 2. My number 3 guy is Immanuel Quickley. We did an episode 2 weeks ago where we talked a lot about the Toronto Raptors. We were answering or buying or selling the opinions going into next season, and one that S put together was about the Raptors being good next season. We dissected it, we agreed, we disagreed, yada, yada, yada. But in that episode, I talked about RJ Barrett and the amount of times his role has shifted in just the last, 3 seasons or so, when he was a Knick, and then his first time with the Toronto Raptors, then this season where everybody was injured and now he's been used as a ball handler. As I'm doing this episode and writing up, my run of show for this one, I was thinking about Immanuel Quickley and how he also fits that mold of guys whose role continues to shifts, right? I think what makes him the most intriguing, or one of my most intriguing guys, is I think his role may shift back to what it was when he was a Knick. Now, I want to pause because I can already see the angry tweets. I don't mean in the sense that he will be coming off the bench like he did with the Knicks, but I mean how he's being utilized on the offensive side of the ball. Because I don't know. Immanuel Quickley may not be a true lead guard for an NBA team. And I'm here to tell you that would be okay. Everybody doesn't need to be the lead guard. But with them adding, again, Brandon Ingram, Scotty Barnes being completely healthy, his role just shifts. When they traded for him, he was kind of looked at as like, hey, between you and RJ, one of y'all are like our second option type of guys, most likely you because you have the ball and we gave you your extension immediately. But now that Brandon Ingram is there, it kind of shifts some things because we've seen Scotty be point Scotty, right? We've seen Scotty be the lead ball handler. We've seen Brandon Ingram facilitate offense over the last couple of years of his career. And I believe that if Immanuel Quickley can go back to the role that he played with the Knicks, it will just do so much better for the New York Knicks. When he played with the Knicks, he played a ton off the ball. One of the coolest things about Immanuel Quickley, one of the most deadly off the bench moves that we had during that era is just Immanuel Quickley using his first step off the catch, off the bounce, just getting in and boom, rocketing through a defender and get into the basket or get into floater range and doing his best D'Angelo Russell impersonation when D'Angelo Russell shot 60% on floaters. Immanuel Quickley was doing that. But then he got to the Raptors and it changed where he went from a guy that was playing off the ball and being able to use that off the bounce step to a guy that was the lead ball handler, running a ton more pick and rolls, with the starting unit. And not that that was bad or anything, but me personally, thinking about who Immanuel Quickley is as a player, I think he excels so much more on that off the ball guy because he's so much of a threat as a catch and shoot player. I don't think he shot it very well from catch and shoot since he's been in Toronto. But thinking about who he was with the Knicks, that's not that far long ago. He was a deadly catch and shoot player as well. So it got people thinking, if I got the ball, if I Immanuel Quickley off a swing pass, am I catching and shooting? You think I am? Boom, blow by, floater range, bucket. Oh, you think I'm going to float past you? Boom, jump shot. And I think it opens the game up so much more for him if he's playing off the ball, but also for this offense, an offense that's going to desperately need jump shooting. Fuck. I was so tired of talking about jump shooting. But a team that's going to need jump shooting. They're going to need catch and shoot opportunities. They're going to need guys that can create off the bounce and hit a three. And Immanuel Quickley is that guy. So I'm curious that now that they are completely healthy and they've added these new faces to this team, could we see Quickley? He may not have his best statistical season, but maybe we look at Quickley and be like, yes, all right, we understand it. The $32 million that he's being guaranteed makes sense, even if he's not the number 2 guy on the team. I think a lot of people could kind of fit into the most intriguing list from the Toronto Raptors. As we talked about before, there's just a lot of stuff going on over there. And I can see the people that are really optimistic, but I also understand the people that are pessimistic as well. Shout out to Immanuel Quickley. The next 2 I'm going to do relatively fast, and I'm going to get to the guys that didn't make the top 5 that I think are interesting as well. The next guy on the list is John Collins. John Collins is on a new team with the LA Clippers, and during media day, Tyronn Lue was asked about his potential starting lineup. He said that Bradley Beal is going to be starting at the 2 guard, and they need Bradley Beal to go back to his all defensive days. And I had to go look and nah, that brother's never got an all defensive vote. So I don't know what the hell you're talking about, Ty Lue. He's always he's at times he's a decent defender, a decent to good defender. But I don't know if you can ask a guy at the age of 30 something to be like, yo, you're gonna beat an all defense. You need to replace Chris Dunn defensively in this lineup. You know how hard that is? Because Chris Dunn is one of them guys defensively. Anyway, but he's also asked about John Collins. I like Tyronn Lue a lot. Is John Collins going to be starting at the 4? And the answer is going to be surprising to you. Tyronn Lue said, I don't know, I forgot. That was that is verbatim the quote from Tyronn Lue. I don't know, I forgot. So we don't know if John Collins is going to be starting this season. But let's talk about it both of the ways. If he's starting or he's coming off the bench. Question number 1 for John Collins, is he a shooter or is he not? Remember at the end of his Hawks tenure, he had that finger injury and he posted a picture up on Instagram where I don't remember if his ring finger or his middle finger was ballooned like double the size. And then the year after that, he shot, let me see what this number is. He shot 29% from 3 after having that hand injury. You remember that? The years before that, he shot 36%. He shot 39%, 40%. So he had become a decent shooter from 3 on 3.5 attempts. And then he had the finger injury and it tanked down to 29% from 3. He got to Utah, 37%. And then last year, 40% from 3 on John Collins on almost 4 attempts under the radar. I can't act like I was out there watching Utah Jazz games. Are you fucking kidding me? You have to be a diehard for that. But the numbers was just surprising to me. I didn't realize that he had turned himself back into this plus 3-point shooter. So hypothetically, if he's playing alongside Zoo, I think that the defensive identity that they had curated over the last season is dead. By the way, I think that goes away if a starting unit is going to be James Harden, Bradley Beal, Kawhi Leonard, John Collins and Zoo. Obviously, there's something there, but like they were like a top 3 defense last year. I don't think they can do that if that's their starting unit. But whatever. Maybe they just flipped that identity on his head. Now they're a high-powered offense team, and I could see that. If John Collins is going to hit his 3-point shot at this clip for next season, Bradley Beal is still an effective offensive player. James Harden is the best floor riser, and then Kawhi Leonard he's good. Like, so I could see that offense being, humming and playing well, but I think that defensive identity kind of goes away a little bit. So the idea of him starting kind of makes some sense. But also the idea of him coming off the bench makes some sense too for him, because I could see his role as a offensive player shifting the times that he's playing alongside Brook Lopez. Where Brook Lopez is a stretch in this thing. He's setting the high pick and roll, and he's flaring and stuff, and John Collins could kind of go back to that rim rocking 4-man that we saw him be in Atlanta. So I'm very intrigued, because again, they traded away Norman Powell, and it's another thing I'm going to mention second apron. I'm going to mention CBA. I'm going to mention the new way of team building quite a bit over this next season, because it's something I've been thinking about a ton. But they traded away a near all-star caliber player in Norman Powell for John Collins, because they didn't believe in the type of money that Norman Powell would probably want. And that tier of score is obviously important in the NBA, but how important is it when it comes to the financial aspect? You don't really have to worry about that for John Collins, because his role as a 4-man, as a backup 5-man, is not going to be as expensive as a guy that's putting up 21 to 23 points per game on a good team. And that's what Norman Powell had become last season. So I'm excited to see what John Collins can do for this team. I also wonder if there's a world where he can turn back the clocks. And I'm always skeptical to say these type of things, or when I hear people say these type of things, because a lot of times we're talking about so long ago. But in that run, the 2021 run where they went to the conference finals, the reason why John Collins got paid all of that fucking money that he got paid is because he just locked in defensively. And you're like, oh, snap, this guy he's switching, he's playing drop, he's doing everything. And again, that was 4 years ago. So I wonder, can he get back to that? Like, I don't know. 4 years ago, a lot of things were different. 4 years ago, a lot of things are different. Mindsets shift, people shift, abilities shift. So I don't know if he can do it, but if he can, oh boy, Clippers may have got them one. My last guy in my top 5 most intriguing players is my boy Donovan Clingan. I can't get enough of talking about Donovan Clingan right now. He said in his media day that he had dropped some weight. He's in the best shape of his life, and he believes that he can play double the amount of minutes per game that he did last season, which is dope. Donovan Clingan's stats on and off defensively reminds me of a young Rudy Gobert. I will say it again. He is a great, just in his rookie season, a great drop coverage big that protects the paint. Obviously, he gets into some foul trouble. It's always going to happen with a center at his age and with his defensive responsibility. So I'm really excited about his season. But also in that same media day, something scared me. Chauncey Billups said that last year, their whole goal was to set their defensive identity. In the second half of the season, they were one of the best defensive teams in ball. They really were good on that end. So that was real. He did set the defensive identity. You look at Toumani Camara or Denny as a competitor, Donovan Clingan. We go on and on. Shaedon Sharpe, a guy who can average 20 points per game, literally got benched because even though he was averaging 20, he couldn't defend. And Chauncey didn't like his effort defensively. So they set that identity. But he said going to this season, now they're trying to set their offensive identity. And I mentioned this on Numbers on the Board. And, I think we kind of went past it pretty fast, but I want to kind of talk about it here a little bit more in depth. As I listened to all of the head coaches and all of the players' media days, the one word that continued to pop up was the word pace, the word faster. And Chauncey Billups was also a guy that talked about playing faster. He didn't mean just forcing turnovers. This is his words. He didn't mean he just forcing turnovers again on the break. He said in the half court as well. They're not going to be a team that's just going to result in a high pick and roll. They're going to be playing off cuts. They're going to be playing off instinct. And I think that is so interesting, specifically for the big fella, Donovan Clingan. You trying to tell me this man wasn't conditioned enough to play last year where they were a slow-paced team, and just in one offseason, you think you're going to convince me that they're going to be able to play fast with Donovan Clingan, big ass back there? I don't know. I don't know if I can trust that like that. I just don't know if I can trust it. So how does playing with pace look for Donovan Clingan? I don't know. That's my big question. That's why he is one of the most intriguing players to me. Because obviously, he got so many years of his NBA career. Things can look off for this season. And it's over for Donovan Clingan. And some of these other guys, like, maybe the opposite of that. But when you talk about schematic fit, I was just trying to look at again his comparisons. A Rudy Gobert, and I didn't do this beforehand, but now it's on the top of mind. I'm going to look it up really, really quick. If his comparison is like a Rudy Gobert type of guy, I do want to remind you that Rudy Gobert finished top 5 in DPOY his second season in his NBA career, where he only started in 37 games. So shout out to Rudy Gobert. That season, they were 30th in pace. The season after that, they were 30th in pace. The season after that, they were 30th in pace. Season after that, they were 25th in pace. Season after that, we do get into top 15. They were number 13. Season after that, they were 24th, and then we got 18th, and then he was off the team. 22nd his last year. It's hard to be a fast-paced team if you're going to have this type of dude play a ton of minutes. It's just hard. And let's go to his Minnesota days. Ooh, here we go. Minnesota, 24th. Damn it. I thought that was something there. And last year, 24th as well. Damn it. Okay. I thought it was something there. I thought for a second, I thought that we shifted the switch, but I was 1 year ahead. And these type of players, we just don't have a ton of them anymore. I feel like every single center in basketball is more switchable. You don't have almost exclusive drop coverage bigs. Oh, another guy, Zubas. Let me look up Zoo. Another guy. And I'm only going to look at the years where he was a starter, right? I don't want to look at, his LA years because he wasn't really playing. 18th in pace, 24th in pace, 20th in pace. Last year, 22nd in pace. Who knows what's going to happen this year? But they're older now, so that 22nd might be 25th. Who the hell knows? It's just interesting to me. That's all. How do we play fast with a big, like a true throwback big? And I don't mean throwback in the sense that post touches, because he wasn't very good in the post last season. He actually shot more threes than I ever anticipated. And a lot of those happened at the end of the season when they were kind of just dicking around. Just trying to what, can he shoot a little bit? And he shot about 1 a game. If I'm round, it's 0.7. And he shot 28% on those. But again, a lot of those happened at the end of the season. So who knows? It was so weird when we saw Walker Kessler at the end of last season, just letting them fly. It's like, what am I have to lose? They don't want to pay me anyway. I could just go out there and shoot them all. Let me see what Walker Kessler ended up doing 3-point wise. Because I remember it was 1 game. Yeah, look, there's a stretch in here. Walker Kessler, for the first, let me see. Let me make sure I do this right. For the first 66 games of the season, or 50 games for him, because he's always going to miss time. He attempted a total of 6 3-pointers in the first 50 games of the season. 6. Then the next games after that, he shot 6 in a game, 5 in a game, 6 in a game, and 8 in a game. What the hell happened in that locker room? Did Will Hardy just say, "Here, y'all do what y'all want"? He took 8 threes in a game. And if you ask a Kitty, how many did he hit? 1, 2, 3. He hit 3. 1 of 6, 1 of 6, 1 of 8, 0 for 5. What the hell was happening? I don't know. And then the last 2 games of the season, he didn't take any. So Will Hardy put the plug real quick. You got your little run, and then it's gone, brother. It's gone. So those are the 5 most intriguing players going into next season. Here are the people that I truly thought about, but didn't have enough to write about or write up in my run of show, but I'll quickly talk about them. Another big burly center from the same draft class, Zach Edey. The reason I didn't add Zach Edey is because him and every other front court player of the Memphis Grizzlies are going into next season injured. Just all of them are just injured right now. But I wasn't interested in what happened after they fired Taylor Jenkins and then Isolo took over, and how much they used him in a high pick and roll with John Morant, which is what John Morant's game really is, and how impactful they were defensively when it was Jaren and Zach Edey. And I think going into year number 2, he could be a lot better. But again, he's starting off injured. The next name that didn't make the list, but was really close, was Jaden McDaniels. We mentioned last episode how Anthony Edwards is under a ton of pressure going into next season. And again, to reiterate, not pressure to perform, but pressure on court. And Jaden McDaniels showed us a lot in the second half of the season, from Jan 1 to the end of the year, about him being a ball handler and creating for himself off the dribble. when the first half of the season he was kind of just strictly spotting up, but he got to his mid-range areas and so on. And I wonder how much of that transfers into this next season. Another name that was on the list, the best name on the list by a wide margin, was Bam Adebayo. Coach Spoelstra said that there's a lot of unknown with this team and he's embracing the unknown. And I don't really know if I like my head coach talking about the unknown, man. And if anybody's going to figure it out, it's going to be Spoelstra, like the best coach in the NBA right now. But without Tyler Hero, at least to start the season, it ain't like Tyler Hero's out for the year, but to start the season, the first 15 or so games that Tyler Hero might miss, Bam Adebayo's usage should be interesting. Last year he got to the point where he was attempting more threes, something that I really, really was hoping for years. And then I watched it in action and I was like, actually, bro, you ain't got to do that. You don't have to do that because he just didn't get to the basket. And I've talked about Clean the Glass is one of my favorite NBA sites. It has been, I've had a subscription for like what feels like a decade. And one of the things I really like looking at, and you heard this when I was talking about the Brandon Miller thing, is the frequency that players take their shots in different areas. And Bam Adebayo is one of the few people, especially at his size, that he's now listed as 6'10". I don't know if he's always been 6'10". I feel like I've seen 6'9" before. That the amount of attempts that he's had at the rim has dropped every single year of his career. His rookie season, 73%. Then we get 69%, then 59%, then 45%, then 40%, then 35%. Then last year, just 27% of his shots ended up at the rim. He ends up a lot in floater range, which is fine, especially if he's making it. But the long twos continue to be a part of his game as well. Just overall mid-range jumpers are 55%, and that's in the 99th percentile for his position. There's not a lot of 4.5s in ball that's taking that many mid-rangers. And for what it's worth, he shot 45% on those mid-rangers, but it's just an intriguing player because I know there's a lot left on the bone for Bam Adebayo as an offensive player. And I like the idea of him being a three-point shooter or attempting more threes, but I didn't want it to be at the detriment of him getting to the basket. I was hoping that some of the shots that get cut out was those long mid-rangers, and those turn into more threes while getting to the basket stayed there. But it's not really the case. I do think that next year to start the season, their defensive lineups can be kind of nuts when you think about it. Between Davion, Norm Powell, Wiggins, Bam, and Khalil Ware. I know Khalil Ware's still trying to figure it out, like in his mind when it comes to defensive side, but damn, that unit could really cause some havoc. Next, I had Jabari Smith Jr. For obvious reasons. And then I also had Tari Eason. It would have felt weird to have two players on the same team. Both of y'all are the most intriguing players, kind of. I just want to see what type of money Tari Eason's going to make. 20 million, 25 million, 16 million. I literally couldn't tell you. And I think he's asking for a number and they're not willing to give him to him. So give him to Chicago. All right, y'all. Those are the most intriguing players. When we come back, we're going to have Ask KB. All you got to do is hit us up on Instagram, on Twitter with the hashtag AskKB, and I'll try to answer some questions. Producer Greg is out. So in his seat, we have Christian, who, if you're a fan of the Enjoy Basketball Network, you've seen him before on Teed Up, but he is here with a bunch of college stuff behind him to fill in with the Ask KB. What we got today?
Good to be here, Kenny. Also, we got Kemba, we got Dame, and then, of course, Zach Norvell Jr. in the middle.
Oh, of course, Zach Norvell Jr. I met Zach Norvell Jr. at a family barbecue like 3 years ago.
Because he's from Chicago, right?
Yeah. He's not related to me, but he was related to somebody that was at the family barbecue.
Very
cool guy.
Do you know where he's hooping at these days?
No.
I don't either. All right. So our first Ask KB is from our friend Officer Buckets, and I'm going to play the sound.
Hey, Kenny, been trying to get on for a minute. My question is, what player have you not seen live that you need to go watch? For example, I'm going to go watch Braun this year for the first time. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man, it's an experience watching Braun live. I wish I would have been able to watch him live, in his prime. I didn't really get to see him in a regular season game until he was with the Lakers. That's a great question. As I look at the teams to kind of refresh my memory, I'm lucky enough to have been a season ticket holder for the Bulls for a few seasons, so I got to see a lot of great players. Also, we get to go to like All-Star weekends and stuff, so I've seen pretty much every single superstar player. So trying to look at it, I ain't gonna lie to you, brother. I kind of seen them all, man. It's a blessing. It truly is a blessing. But if you were asking me this year, who am I? So let's shift the question just a little bit. Officer Buckets. Who would I'm most excited to see? Last time I got to see Jokic, he got ejected. No, that's not true. Because I saw him again the year after. Damn. Okay, wait. Let me take a step back. In January, the Clippers are coming to Chicago. I got to see Chris Paul. You know, it's one of the few times where I'm like, as long as I am in town, I will buy tickets to that game. And we don't know if he's going to be injured, God forbid. We don't know if he'll even be really in the rotation at the old age that he's at. But if this is his last hurrah, I got to be there. And it's rare that you'll see me in a crowd of a Bulls game without a Bulls gear on. I might have a Chris Paul shirt on. Not a Clipper shirt, but a Chris Paul shirt. And I got to make that, because I'm not rooting for them. I'm rooting for him. So I got to see Chris Paul. But like Luka, I've seen. Bron, I've seen. Jokic, I've seen. Shea, I've seen. So I feel like I've seen every team in the NBA, which is crazy.
Have you been to key playoff games? Is there any? Could I reframe the question? If there's a player to see in like a playoff setting live,
you think I have seen key playoff games here in Chicago?
Well, I don't know if you've traveled.
No. I've only been to a few playoff games. I went to Game 1 of Brooklyn Nets versus 76 a few years back when D'Angelo Russell was on the team. D'Angelo Russell literally fell in my lap. So that was a fun experience. I got to touch the basketball because I was courtside. So I got to touch the basketball that they were playing with. That was cool. And then I was there when Kawhi Leonard tore his ACL against the Utah Jazz a few years back, the year after the bubble. Those are like the only playoff moments I've been there for. So I would love to be in attendance for like a playoff Pacer game. Like when the guys took that road trip to Indiana and I couldn't go, I was so pissed because that crowd looked so electric and it ended up being an amazing game. This year, I don't know if they're going to get many playoff games without Halliburton, but that would be one of them ones that I would want to see for sure.
Next up from Sean at I Don't Sing 1. If you had to choose one rule to change in the NBA, what would it be and why?
Yeah, I mean, the one that me and Greg have talked about over the last couple of years was the half-court heave stat, and they changed that. So we win, kind of. If there was one rule that I would change in the NBA, I think I would make it so that I do think that the coach's challenge is a valuable part of basketball. I don't want to take that away, but I do want to give a time frame for the referees to determine whether something should be overturned. If I don't know what the amount of time should be. If we can't figure it out, let's say in 2 minutes, then whatever we call is just stands. We give a shot clock for the referees. If they can't figure it out, our initial call is just the way it's going to be. Because when we have those times where it's a 7-minute, 8-minute, 9-minute delay in a playoff game or an important game in the fourth quarter, it just sucks all the energy out of the arena. It sucks all the energy from the fan base that are really happy about watching this game. So if we say 2 minutes on the clock, the Celtics have challenged the out of bounds play, and then boom. 2 minutes later, they say, hey, we didn't have enough information to overturn it in this amount of time, or now it's the Cavs ball. You know, I think that's the best solution we can have to the amount of stoppages of play with the coaching challenge without taking the coaching challenge away.
Couldn't agree more. It's awful in college basketball too. The rule wasn't created for perfection. In my opinion, it should be to fix mistakes. So if you can't fix the mistake in 2 minutes, then it was a tough call. Stick with it, and let's play basketball.
And a lot of times the referee's eyes are the right, like the ones to go with anyway. Yeah, it's, a tough job and they're not great at it at times, but I usually steer on like the referees made the right decision a lot of the times.
Next up from Paul Slaughter, 79. If you could cast this season's players for starting five, who would you pick? You saw that trailer yesterday that they dropped was pretty cool.
And I do want to say, last year they announced the starting five cast. And I tweeted like, this is a great cast. And the amount of replies to that was like, no, it's not. Why is so-and-so here? Yada, yada, yada. Bro, they kind of hit it out of the park. Now, season 1 of starting five, the idea of it was a lot better than the execution. I feel like I didn't learn anything. There wasn't a lot of great moments. If the edit that we get in a couple weeks here isn't good, then fucking can the entire show. Tyrese Halliburton went to the Game 7 of the NBA Finals with torn Achilles. He was a part of the start. So it better be emotional. It better put us into the framework or the mindset of these players going into it. But if I was going to do it, Bron's scaring me, making me think that this might be last year. And if this is last year, I know that Bron probably won't want. I think it's the Omaha team to do it. He probably want to do it with his own people. But if this is last year, Bron, you gotta get Bron up there. You have to get Bron up there. I think we should have. Is it crazy to say? I'm just gonna name the best players in the league. Giannis, with all the uncertainty about what's next for him, I think it would be great to see peek behind the scenes of like, because people are like, man, Milwaukee sucks. He should request a trade. But I think if you go behind the curtain and see what the everyday life is for Giannis in Milwaukee with his family, it may change the idea of like he should automatically request a trade because the team is not very good. So I would go him. You also got to go like some young stars. The Pistons already took their jump, but I wouldn't be mad to see Cade Cunningham in the starting five because I think that he has the potential to be like another one of the faces of the league one day. I know we're probably talking years and years down the line, but also I don't know a ton about Cade Cunningham, the person, right? So, I think it'll help the NBA marketing if we learn that Cade Cunningham is a really cool guy. So that's three. Sheesh, I don't know. Zion probably would be
That's
pretty
what I
cool.
was thinking.
We probably had to start it like 3 months ago during his transformation phase, but like Zion will be dope to see. He already is a character, and now hopefully he's going to have a pretty healthy season. And lastly, I would go Cooper Flag. Coming in as the first overall pick in an organization with some expectations and so on, and that will be my 5, I guess.
Great choices. I was definitely thinking Zion would be interesting. Also, in terms of the execution of the show, I got tired of seeing Sabonis play with his kid. You know what I'm saying? Like after the second episode, I'm like, I get it. They have a nice little family. Like I want to fast forward to
I can see because he is just maybe not that interesting of a guy that you kind of just you play the family guy, the family guy card. He's great with his kids. He's great with his kids. He just cares about basketball and family. But he wasn't given much, man. It's trash.
All right. Our final Ask KB is another audio, which I will play right now. This is from sgram_28.
Hey, what's up, Kenny? Love the videos and both podcasts. Just wanted to ask you, if you were to create a starting 5 with Pokemon, who would your starting 5 be?
Damn. Okay, you put me on the spot here a little bit, but I'm gonna try my very best to give you a night. Wait. Okay. Yeah. This is really cool. Because I did this before. Let me see if I can find my old script where I did it with One Piece characters. And people's like, Kenny, you too invested in One Piece. Let me see. That is so interesting. All right. I think can I get a coach?
Absolutely.
I'm gonna get a coach, and it's got to be Alakazam. By all accounts, Alakazam is the most smart Pokemon there is, especially in the early generation. So put him out there. He's gonna be making us run the best offense, the best defense. He's gonna be 3 levels ahead of every single team. My 5-man, even though he's kind of aloof and he may be not as motivated, but Snorlax is legitimately 7 feet tall and like 3,000 pounds. This is the NBA though. I was gonna say if this is college basketball, sit his ass down low defensively and let him just hog up the paint. But in the NBA, he can't really do that. I feel like I need some type of flying character. Somebody that could get to who's my favorite flying type. Forget that. This is the greatest basketball player ever created, Christian. Are you ready?
Yes.
I'm taking Ditto as my 3. Ditto goes against LeBron on Monday. Guess what? He's LeBron. He goes against Kevin Durant on Tuesday. Guess what? He's Kevin Durant. That is the easiest character to have in a basketball started 5. Are you kidding me? So, okay, I'm taking Alakazam as a coach. I'm going to stick with the Snorlax for time. I can't think about all 1,000 Pokemon trying to figure out the 5. I'm putting Ditto at my 3. There literally is a Pokemon named Durant. He's a big-ass ant, but his name is Durant. And he's made out of metal. Oh man, this is too tough. This is too tough. Can we? I want to keep this all in, but put a pin in it. Next week, I'm going to have you the best 10-man unit of Pokemon characters. And we're going to win the ship.
Can we get Geodude in there or no?
I feel like Geodude would just dunk. Yeah, Geodude can hoop, man. You might confuse him with the ball occasionally, but other than that, he can be on the team. Man, I feel like one of the somebody that's like, I mean, Mewtwo has to be on the team. He's literally a combination of every single Pokemon. And then like Arceus can go invisible. So imagine guarding that guy. All right, I'm taking too much time. I'll give you a full 10-man unit next week. I promise. But what hell of a question, man. I love when we turn non-basketball into basketball. Thank you to Christian for producing this episode. That's the end of Small Ball for this week. Again, just be on the lookout, whether it be on Twitter or Instagram, or just click the bell below on YouTube or on Spotify, because we might shift the schedule a little bit to a different day in the next coming weeks. And I'm so bad at keeping secrets. God damn. Big things happening. Thank y'all so much for watching. I will see y'all next week.